Sean Coffey, President, Directing Business Rep of IAM Local Lodge 1943. I have the honor and privilege of representing the finest men and women of Middletown Works. Those of us who call this mill our home are extremely proud to be joined by Secretary of Energy, the Honorable Jennifer Granholm, Cleveland Cliffs Chairman, President, and Executive Officer Lorenzo Gonsalves, as well as other company leaders and many of our elected officials. In a moment, we will hear directly from Senator Granholm about new DOE programming created through the Inflation Reduction Act and a transformational project here in Middletown that has been selected by the DOE for award negotiations. Then we will hear from Lorenzo about how this investment by Cleveland Cliffs to be supported by the DOE will lead Middletown Works to the distinction of being the lowest greenhouse gas emitting integrated steel mill in North America, while further increasing efficiency, enhancing the cost profile of our mill. The workforce here could not be more excited about this investment. It will mean many more decades of steel making in Middletown, a proud steel community, and opportunities for good paying middle class union steel jobs for future generations. With that, I'd like to welcome my IAM brother, John Giltro, a 45-year veteran of Middletown Works, to introduce Secretary Granholm.
Thanks, John. My name is John Giltro. I'm a third-generation steelworker here at Cleveland Cliffs. Everything I've ever had in my life, from an infant to today, has come out of this plant. My family's worked out here. Both of my grandfathers worked out here 30 plus years. My father worked out here 30 years, and I've been here 45. I've worked from the labor to production to maintenance. Today I'm a maintenance apprentice instructor, teaching new apprentices how to become maintenance technicians. I've seen all the ups and downs of the industries firsthand. The 80s were pretty rough around here. I'm very optimistic about the growth we've seen over the past few years, though. This is really good. And now, it's my honor and my privilege to introduce the Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm. Good job, John.
So great. So great. Thank you, John, so much for that great introduction, knowing that your whole family, this is a family operation for generations. It's in your DNA, and I bet you're not the only one whose father worked here or whose grandfather may have worked here, right? Some of you nodding over here. How many of you are more than one generation at this plant? Okay, that is just amazing and awesome. And we're going to continue because we want your kids and grandkids to be able to produce steel in America as well. It is, right? Yes. I was looking at Wikipedia. I think I got this right, but I may have gotten it wrong. Was this mill founded in 1899? Is that, yes, 1899. Man, mills like this aren't just employers, they're anchors. They are embedded so deeply in the community. Over the last century or more, you could judge probably the strength of the Middletown economy based on whether the flame above the mill was burning. When the flame was lit, right, workers were producing steel for early Oldsmobiles during the Second Industrial Revolution, for tanks during World War I, for bridges, appliances, cars, all sorts of products. Workers like John and his dad and his granddads and those three generations really building American history here. It's so amazing. In the 70s and 80s, this American steel overall faced this crisis of offshoring. Armco, the owner of the Middletown Mill, announced it was going to close up shop and lay off thousands of workers. And yes, our steel was the best, but China's was the cheapest, right? I am the former governor of Michigan, and I was governor during the Great Recession and before, when all of these jobs went overseas, right? These CEOs were looking for ways to reduce costs. I don't know if you remember Jack Welch, who was the head of GE, once famously said that he wished he could put his plants on barges and move them to where labor was cheapest. You know, so-called free trade and trickle-down economics, laissez-faire, they ushered in the losses for America of millions of jobs. Tens of thousands of factories across this country closed up because we were just sitting by and watching all these factories go overseas, and we as a nation were not doing anything about it. We didn't intervene to say, we got to be making stuff in this country. This is, this is not an abstraction for me anyway, because it was the most despairing part of my years as governor, looking into the eyes of too many workers who found themselves out of work through no fault of their own. And I can't really describe the pain and sense of abandonment that people were feeling in those eyes. I can only say that I'm never going to forget it. And for those of you who know people who lost their jobs during that period of time, you know how desperate that is for a family to have lost their main source of income. Offshoring softened our nation's manufacturing backbone. And then countries like China came in and stomped on it, poaching our intellectual property, our jobs. But enter my boss, Joe Biden. He is overseeing a strategy to build and bring manufacturing back to the United States. We're talking about historic incentives. This Invest in America agenda. This is about keeping mills like this here, making sure you're competitive and able to produce the best steel that's most in demand around the world in America, partnering, bringing back supply chains, ensuring that all businesses can stay ahead of the global competition. And I must say, this agenda, the bills that were passed a couple of years ago, supported by Senator Sherrod Brown, supported by Representative Marcy Kaptur, you've got some amazing people who shaped these bills to ensure that Ohio, that Cleveland Cliffs was going to succeed. Thinking about industrial strategy. So consumers and companies around the world are demanding cleaner, greener products made with less pollution, made with recycled materials, built to last. That's happening all over the world. And we, as a nation now, are specifically investing to decarbonize these energy-intensive industries like steelmaking, where we can have the greatest impact. Iron as well, aluminum, cement, concrete, chemicals, food and beverages, pulp and paper processing, all really energy-intensive. And together, these industries, the heavy industry sector of America's economy, emit about a third of our carbon pollution. Communities like Middletown, home to industrial facilities, get the benefit of these jobs, but many can feel those emissions acutely in some areas of the country where there's really concentration of industrial processes. There's a huge amount of asthma. There is polluted water. And so there's an issue about how communities can benefit from industrial decarbonization and cleaner processes as well. So as we're embarking on this mission to revitalize American manufacturing, we don't want to just make the best products in the world, and we will. We want to make sure that we make the best and cleanest products in the world. We want to make those products here. We want to stamp them made in America. We want to use them here. We want to export them across the world. This is who we are. We are American, and we are proudly building these with American workers. And that's what we're going to be doing into the future. So today, I'm thrilled to announce the largest single industrial decarbonization investment in American history, right here. The single largest ever. Now it's not just you. It is the Department of Energy. We have selected 33 demonstration projects from Kentucky to California, from Texas to Tennessee, from Minnesota to Middletown, Ohio, to receive collectively $6 billion in federal funding. And when you factor in the company's share of this, it's a $20 billion investment in industrial decarbonization in America. These projects are gonna slash our emissions by 14 million metric tons per year. They are replicable, they are scalable. What you do here in Middletown will be looking at how we can replicate that in places all across the country. Just a couple of highlights. In Ravenswood, West Virginia, for example, Constellium is going to deploy a first of its kind zero carbon aluminum manufacturing casting plant, installing low emissions furnaces that can operate on a range of fuels, including hydrogen. I know that sounds a bit familiar. Kraft Heinz is going to upgrade and electrify and decarbonize food production at 10 facilities nationwide, including a site here in Ohio in Fremont where they make ketchup and mayo and A1 sauce. Takes a whole lot of heat to make that sauce, so it produces a whole lot of emissions, and they're going to be deploying technology like heat pumps and electric heaters and electric boilers to slash their emissions 99%. And of course, right here, Cleveland Cliffs is going to retire a blast furnace and install 2 electric furnaces, which will be the largest in the world.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Importantly, right, Sean, it also means 170 new jobs, right, at this facility. 1,200 union construction jobs at this facility, in addition, of course, to the 2,500 jobs that already exist, the vast majority represented by IAM. All 33 of these projects are going to maintain tens of thousands of good-paying jobs nationwide, jobs that people want to get, jobs that people want to grow in, jobs that parents want for their kids, jobs that fuel our economy, and jobs that anchor communities like Middletown and keep generations employed. We want to make sure that every worker has the opportunity to build a lasting and fulfilling career like John has, and so many of you who are here. So these projects look with clear eyes to the future, but they're rooted in the proudest moments of our past. Back in 1916, when World War I was going on, and as it raged overseas, the Middletown Mill sent out a pamphlet to workers. And the pamphlet in 1916 featured a poem by a poet, Walter Wintle. And it reads in part, that poem from 1916. It says, "If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. You've got to think high to rise." Today, we face another industrial challenge, and we are thinking higher than ever before. We're thinking cleaner, we're thinking healthier, and together we are rising. Middletown is rising, workers are rising, unions are rising. Love to see our UAW brothers here from the Butler plant, right? Right? Another beneficiary of this. And the flame of American manufacturing is blazing white hot. And one of the great champions of American manufacturing is your CEO. I'm so pleased and proud to turn this microphone over to Lorenzo Gonsalves.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
What a pleasure being here with Secretary Granholm in this historical day. It's historical for several reasons. One thing that sometimes we don't recognize about the importance of politics, the real politics, the good politics, is that politicians have to do a lot of things, and they have to tender to a lot of different constituencies that sometimes are conflicting. There's only one constituency that's very easy to tender to. It's the people. Because our Constitution starts with we, the people. If you keep this in mind, it's all about the people. Things get a lot easier. And things that are very unusual happen very naturally. So today, Madam Secretary, we have here, of course, the IAM. My partner Sean Coffey is here, the president of the local here in Middletown, and all the workforce represented by the IAM. But I also have my partners from the local 3303 in Butler, Pennsylvania. They are the recipients of another investment, $75 million in our Butler, Pennsylvania plant, which will modernize and improve our ability to produce more efficiently and at a lower cost and lower emissions, grain-oriented electrical steels that will continue to ensure that we have a functional electrical grid in this country. Butler is the last plant, the last man standing, the sole plant in the United States producing grain-oriented electrical steels, and will continue to be for the foreseeable future, because the Biden administration allowed us to have this co-investment and allowed us to continue to produce grain-oriented electrical steels over there. Here in Middletown, we are going to use pellets, and we are going to bring pellets from Minnesota and Michigan that we produce with the USW. Or the workforce that is represented by my partners with the United Steelworkers. So I have here my friend Donnie Blatt. Donnie, please, can you raise for a second? Thanks, Donnie. Donnie is the director of the District 1 of the USW, including the states of Ohio and Michigan. So we don't have one union here, we have three. We're partners. We work together. We work for the people. They work for the people. We and they is the same thing here. There's no differentiation. That's how we handle this thing. We don't do that just by talking. When we acquired AK Steel, and then we acquired ArcelorMittal USA, and consolidate both into Cleveland-Cliffs, all the genius in Wall Street, they said, oh, he's going to cut a lot of people, because now he's going to explore synergies, and he'll cut. So, net, since we acquired both AK Steel and ArcelorMittal USA, we increased 1,734 jobs as of last week. That's why we know what we are doing, and we are going to grow 170. And I tend to underpromise and overdeliver. New jobs. But there's more to come. But there's a lot of potential. The United States, as far as steel, needs to forget one thing that has been around for around 2.5, 3 decades. It's the complex of inferiority. We are not behind technologically. We are ahead. I can give you several examples, but I'll give you only one, just because we're talking about Butler here, and I want to point this out. The biggest legacy of decay on AK Steel was Kawasaki learning from the A that was Armico, the technology to produce electrical steels, and took to Japan. From Japan, landed in Korea, and from Korea, landed in China. I only have 17 employees working for us in Europe. The only thing they do, they sell electrical steels under the Armico specification, because that's the specification that is replicated throughout the world. It started right there in Butler, Pennsylvania. That's what we are defending. That's what we are making grow. And that's what we do with the USW in Indiana Harbor, Burns Harbor. And hopefully very soon we have a couple more plants in the area that we can do much better than current management is doing. That's what we're doing here. Middletown is making history today. What we initiated by being the first blast furnace to use hydrogen in the known world, because I don't know if they did any tests in Russia or in China. We are not privy to this type of information, but I know for sure that in Europe nobody did, in Japan nobody did, in Korea nobody did, in Brazil nobody did, in Canada nobody did. So anyway, she's from Canada, I'm from Brazil, so we're Americans, but we're born in the wrong spots. So anyway, but here was in Middletown. And in Middletown, we are going to do we're going to build the most modern facility, decarbonizing for real, creating steel through a process that will be synthetic iron. And synthetic iron has no CO2. And that will be our demonstration to replicate that throughout our 15 plants. Once again, the United States is ahead of everybody technologically. Everybody that's trying to come here and being rebuffed by the right people, by we, the people, they're not trying to bring anything. They're trying to now do it what have been doing from the outside. They're trying to do it from the inside. I have been running trade cases since 1998. It would be impossible to run a trade case if the fox is in the hen house. I can't do it. We share information that's very confidential. We can't do it. So we gotta protect what we have. And we have the market, we have the government, we have the willpower to do things, and more than anything, we have the workforce. Middletown will do an enormous demonstration of the capabilities, not only of Cleveland Cliffs, but the capability of the United States of America. Very soon, we are going to be doing what they do with us. We are going to export steel to Europe. We are going to be exporting steel to Japan. Next time, my dear friend Secretary Raymond is negotiating with the European Union, it's not going to be steel against Bourbon, Harley-Davidsons, and jeans. It will be steel against steel. And ours is better because we can produce steel much better than anyone else, and you have the technology. Thank you very much for being here, Madam Secretary. You are the best. Thank you very much for this investment with the Biden administration. Thanks a lot. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.